The first day I moved into my new home, I barely had time to unload the truck before trouble rolled up. For HOA board members marched across my driveway like they owned the place, demanding I hand over the lake. What they didn't know, I already controlled their docks. I'd spent months searching for the right property. Not just a house, but land with history, land with purpose. When I found a quiet old farmhouse overlooking a private lake, something about it felt alive. The water stretched wide, reflecting clouds like a silver mirror. The realtor almost whispered when she told me, "The lake's included in the deed." She said it like it was a forgotten footnote, a bonus that didn't really matter. But it mattered to me. I'd grown up fishing with my grandfather, learning how water connects people and communities. This lake wasn't just a pretty view, it was a resource, a legacy. What I didn't realize that first night, watching the moon ripple across the surface, was how many people believed they already owned it, and how far they'd go to take it from me. The very next morning, I got my welcome party. For neatly dressed board members in matching polo shirts, clipboards in hand, strutted up my driveway. Their leader, a woman in oversized sunglasses, didn't even bother with small talk. "New residents must understand the rules," she said. "This lake is community property. You'll need to start paying HOA dues immediately." I almost laughed. I hadn't even unpacked my coffee maker yet. She went on, rattling off about shared maintenance fees, dock usage schedules, and how my shoreline needed visual compliance upgrades. It was the kind of tone you use when you're used to people folding instantly. But I didn't fold. Instead, I smiled politely and said, "Interesting," because I was under the impression the lake came with my deed. Her lips twitched, like I just told a bad joke. She didn't know it yet, but that single sentence was the opening shot in a battle she was destined to lose. That night, curiosity drove me into the stacks of old records at the county courthouse. I wanted proof. Sure enough, tucked between fading surveys and tax maps, I found it. The original deed from nearly a century ago. Not only did my land border the lake, my family now owned the entire lakebed. Every dock, every boat slip, every so-called community amenity was sitting on my property. Here's a knowledge nugget. In many states, whoever owns the lakebed controls the shoreline and any structures on it. It's called riparian rights, and it means if you want a dock on my water, you need my permission. I sat there in that dusty courthouse, holding history in my hands, realizing the HOA hadn't just overstepped. They had built their neighborhood's pride and joy on land that wasn't theirs. And I suddenly understood the fight wasn't about a lake. It was about power. The board didn't like polite resistance. Within a week, the harassment started. I got violation notices stuffed in my mailbox for unsightly property conditions. They complained my mailbox was too old. They fined me for grass length, never mind that I just mowed it. Then came the smear campaign. On the neighborhood app, someone posted, "New owner is aggressive about lake rights. Unsafe behavior. Be cautious." No name mentioned, but everyone knew who they meant. A letter arrived threatening legal action if I didn't agree to transfer the lake to HOA control. Their arrogance was breathtaking, as if I was some clueless rookie they could bully out of his rights. But each threat, each fine, each false accusation was just more documentation for my growing file. See, I'd learned in the military that patience wins wars. Let your opponent think they're advancing while you quietly build your counterstrike. And oh, I was building one. I started with inspections. Those shiny docks the HOA bragged about, half weren't even permitted. Electrical wiring for their lights and boat lifts, installed without code compliance. Some docks were sagging, safety hazards waiting to happen. I called the State Water Authority, forwarding pictures. Then the city inspector. Then the county zoning office. Knowledge nugget. An HOA can't build or modify structures on private property without explicit permission from the landowner. Every dock, every walkway, every pump they'd installed without my approval was technically illegal. The more I dug, the worse it looked for them. Their insurance policies assumed the HOA owned the water. That's fraud. Their community budget allocated dues to maintain their lake. That's misuse of funds. But I didn't go public yet. I wanted everything lined up, permits, violations, legal opinions, so when I dropped the hammer, there'd be no escape. Because this wasn't just about proving ownership. It was about exposing their entire empire as a house of cards. The showdown came at an HOA meeting a week later. They'd packed the clubhouse with residents, eager to shame the stubborn newcomer. Their president spoke first, dripping with condescension. This individual refuses to cooperate with our community standards. We may need legal intervention. That's when I stood up, calm, collected, holding a folder thick with documents. I laid the century-old deed on the table. The room went quiet. This lake, I said, is mine. Every dock sits on my property. And here are the permits you never filed, the insurance you falsified, and the fines you can't legally enforce. A murmur spread like wildfire. Neighbors glanced at each other, whispers rising. Wait, our docks? On his land. The president's face drained of color. For the first time, she realized she wasn't the predator in this story. She was prey. The fallout was immediate. The city slapped the HOA with fines for unpermitted structures. Their insurance company canceled coverage. Lawsuits piled in from angry homeowners demanding answers. The board fractured, members resigning one after another. Their president, the woman who'd stormed my driveway demanding my lake, stepped down in disgrace. Meanwhile, neighbors who'd once gossiped about me now came knocking, asking if they could negotiate dock leases directly. Funny how quickly loyalties shift when people realize who really holds the power. For the first time, I wasn't the outsider anymore. I was the one holding the keys, or in this case, the shoreline. I didn't use that power to punish. Instead, I set fair rules, reasonable fees, and reinvested everything back into maintaining the lake properly. They stormed in demanding my lake, but they walked away realizing I controlled their docks and their future. Some lessons are learned the hard way.